to the channel. I am going live because I want to watch right along with you guys, the verdict of this case. If this is your first time here, I am Nouveau Vlogs, and I am very, very excited about finding out what the verdict of this case is going to be. Now, because I am still learning how to use OBS, and I'm not necessarily an expert in streaming because I've never really live streamed before. I'm still going through my technical difficulties as we speak right now. We're gonna have to do this to get away. So you're gonna have to like switch back and forth between screens, and you're gonna have to watch it from my TV or something. We're gonna watch this together. We'll get through this, but soon enough I'll learn how to use OBS so we can have a proper live stream. Right now, didn't have enough time for this verdict to learn it by then, so we're gonna have to get over it real quick. Right now, they're talking before they come to the courtroom where the jury is going to be deliberating once again, and hopefully it's a quick deliberation before they come to their verdict. I'm really excited to know what's going to happen. Hopefully, in my opinion, I really hope that Johnny wins. And I know there's a lot of people who obviously have the same sentiment. Now, if you want me to get better at these live streams or would love to catch more live streams talking about different current events, hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comment section below what is something you might want to see next. And we'll just wait and see what's happening. Just wait and see what's happening right now. And right now we have the reporters speaking.
Thank you. Great reporting as always. Appreciate it.
I'm sure you guys can probably hear that.
Continue following the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, recapping what you might have missed. We'll
So
go
they're gonna
back to what
recap.
happened Friday with the closing arguments, the last attempt by both sides to convince this jury one way or another.
Hopefully you guys can hear that.
The closing argument for Johnny Depp.
The mountain of evidence that Mr. Depp abused Ms. Heard is simply not there. What we have is a mountain of unproven allegations that are wild, over the top, and implausible. And you can't pick and choose which of these wild allegations to believe and which ones to disregard. You either believe all of it or none of it.
Camille
Either
is a
Mr. Depp
savage.
sexually assaulted Ms. Heard with a bottle in Australia, or Ms. Heard got up on that stand in front of all of you and made up that horrific tale of abuse. Either she's a victim of truly horrific abuse, or she is a woman who is willing to say absolutely anything. It is disturbing to think that Ms. Heard would make up the horrific tales of abuse that she testified to in this courtroom. But this case doesn't come down to whether you believe Ms. Heard or you believe Mr. Depp. This case comes down to whether you believe Ms. Heard or you believe Mr. Depp, Christy Dombrowski, Sean Bett, Malcolm Connolly, Travis McGivern, Starling Jenkins, Keenan Wyatt, Dr. Kipper, nurses Debbie Lloyd and Erin Filati, Tara Roberts, Ben King, Kate James, Kate Moss, Dr. Colbert, Morgan Knight, Morgan Tremaine, Officers Melissa Sines, Officers Tyler Haddon, Officer William Gatlin, and Beverly Leonard. What Ms. Heard testified to in this courtroom is the story of far too many women. But the overwhelming evidence, weight of that evidence, shows that it's not her story. It's not Ms. Heard's story. It was an act of profound cruelty, not just to Mr. Depp, but to true survivors of domestic abuse. For Ms. Heard to hold herself out as a public figure representing domestic abuse. It was false, it was defamatory, and it caused irreparable harm.
All right, so let's talk about what we just saw in those closing arguments, at least partially a part of the closing arguments. I'm joined right now by civil rights attorney Joe Richardson and legal analyst Dr. Tracy Pearson. Dr. Pearson, let's start with the part of the closing argument with Camille Vasquez. I thought that was a profound moment. That aspect of her closing really saying that if you believe Amber Heard, then everyone else is a liar. Everyone else who testified for Johnny Depp's side is a liar and is deciding to commit perjury in order to protect Johnny Depp. What do you think of that?
I
I thought that that was an excellent opportunity for her to point out the number of witnesses that stand in Johnny Depp's favor. I think there's a typical strategy that we use as lawyers is to name out the witnesses that testified on, in favor of your client. And that, if you're calling him a liar, then you're calling them a liar. So it's a typical rhetorical strategy, but I think that it works. I thought it was more profound that she talked about Amber Heard not standing in the place of survivors of domestic violence.
A good point. All right, so you heard a little bit of Johnny Depp's closing argument. Let's turn to Amber Heard's closing argument.
This is the document that Mr. Depp signed, the divorce agreement, where he says, signed in agreement with his signature, neither party has made false accusations for financial gain. He said that then. He could have fought this then, but he didn't because he knew that her allegations were true. But then he continued his campaign of humiliation. He says, I want her replaced on that WB film. Ladies and gentlemen, the facts are absolutely overwhelming of abuse. One time, that's all you have to remember. Mr. Depp simply cannot prove to you that he never once abused Amber. And if you don't know, you have to return a verdict for Ms. Heard. A ruling against Amber here sends a message that no matter what you do as an abuse victim, you always have to do more. No matter what you document, you always have to document more. No matter whom you tell, you always have to tell more people. No matter how honest you are about your own imperfections and your own shortcomings in a relationship, you need to be perfect in order for people to believe you.
That's not what they said, but okay.
Don't send that message. That's what he wants you to send.
So Joe, equally compelling argument there, right? That there is more at stake here than just Amber Heard. That if we choose to not believe her, then we're saying, well, all domestic abuse survivors, you have to judge them by what photographs they take, whether they go seek medical treatment, whether or not they do this or that. I thought that was an equally profound moment.
Yeah, it was, but here's the irony to it that I think is interesting. It goes back to the divorce decree, and it talks about each of them saying that nobody did anything for financial gain. So what they're saying is this: take Johnny Depp's words to know that Amber Heard is telling the truth here. So by implication, overlook the difficult moments that she's had in the case. The time where there's been some inconsistencies and perhaps even your inclination to not believe her. And remember what she and Johnny said together
Can you blame us?
at the divorce decree. So it was certainly profound, but they still have to get around the whole thing that perhaps, and this is a difficult place to be, perhaps you should fine for us despite our client. Here's what Johnny said, so Amber is telling the truth now. Not so much because of the testimony, because that didn't always go so good, but it was compelling in its own way, for sure.
Dr. Pearson, let me ask you
I think after all this information, if she's found to win this case, this would be absolutely disgusting.
Greater weight of the evidence for certain factors, certain elements of defamation, and then clear and convincing evidence for actual malice. So for all of our viewers who are trying to understand what this means, can you tell us?
Sure. So for the primary elements of whether the statement was made, whether it was published, whether it was false, the standard is preponderance of the evidence, which people understand as either a feather's weight or 51%.
Right now, I'm not so much worried about the commentary. I just want to get straight to the case because I'm anxious.
And it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's just a hair off of that. And so what it does is it moves the scale this far. And so they have to prove actual malice, that there was actual malice, that there was knowledge of the statement being false. Now, I look at that as also an issue of state of mind. What is the state of mind of the person? Did they know it was false when they made the statement?
Whose state of mind? Amber's? She's crazy.
Is it
you know
fueled
that.
by hostility and ill will and whatnot? Now, there's a separate instruction here that talks about that actual malice is not just hostility, ill will, etc. But it doesn't exclude that from the state of mind concept. What that means is that they have to show
everything she did was acting in malice.
That they knew it was actually false when the statement was made.
Yeah, and that's so important, and why we're talking about it might not be such an easy deliberation for this jury. We might not get a verdict today. They have a lot to consider.
That would
and a very
really
big legal
grind my
standard for
gears.
them to consider as well. Let's take a quick break. When we
I
come
really
back,
hope they do deliberate today. If not, I guess waiting another day, as long as we get what we need. And we start the countdown. So that means we'll be entering the court very shortly, 2 minutes until the feed to the courtroom is on. So I don't know. I'm anxious. I'm anxious. I'm thinking to myself, what's going to happen? Please let it be good news. A lot of us are probably feeling the same anxiety as to finding out what's going to happen. 2 minutes and 31 seconds. Um, I'm nervous. I'm nervous for him, and I have no part in this case. Just to let you know, once again, if I sound weird, if you haven't heard from the beginning of this live, if I sound weird, it's because I have a cold. I've been sick since Thursday. I can't even speak. And my lips are like peeling, and my nose is peeling. Oh, absolutely horrible. And I had to work over the weekend, so I was practically dying trying to do anything that I needed to do at work. So I've just been waiting since the weekend, watching all of these replays, looking at comments, and I want to thank everyone who subscribed to the channel, all my new subscribers and existing ones as well. I want to thank you all for subscribing to the channel. While I've been posting these videos in regards to the Johnny Depp trial, it's something that I became very interested in just because of, you know, my personal kind of investment into it, with knowing what it's like to be someone who suffered from domestic violence. So it kind of becomes like a more personal thing. And not only that, huge lover of Johnny Depp. So not that that just makes me biased towards it. It's seeing all the evidence that has been shown. It shows you that he has to be innocent. There's no way. I mean, let's not get it twisted. I'm sure he's had his fair share of things where he's messed up, and I don't really blame him for it, because I think it's all been in the heat of the moment, especially certain things that he said in the case. I think it comes to a point where when you've dealt with it for so long, you tend to lash out. You just can't handle it anymore. You've had enough, so you will say some very foul things, or do some foul things. Do I think that at some point she's gone to attack him and he's like hit her to restrain her or hold her down? Maybe so. So he's not, innocent in the whole situation. I mean, he's got his problems with his drinking and his drugs, but that's stuff he can get help for, and hopefully they both get help, because she definitely needs some mental help for sure. Just by listening to the recordings, you can tell. But I just wish him nothing but the best in recovering from all of this that has happened to him. So they're going to continue the deliberations today, and hopefully, also, I guess they're not back into the courtroom yet, so they're waiting to see what's going to happen, if they're going to hear from the jury to say where they are in their deliberation. Let's see what they have to say.
Mr. Ronborn asked you to consider why you're here. So why are you here? You're here because of a lie. And that was a lie that Ms. Heard repeated in the op-ed. At the start of this trial, we told you that this trial is about the evidence. The evidence overwhelmingly shows that Ms. Heard is an abuser and that she is a liar. She lied about Mr. Depp and took on the role of a lifetime as a public figure representing domestic abuse. What is her best evidence of that abuse? A video of Mr. Depp banging cabinets around, and text messages of Mr. Depp using bad words and dark, ugly humor, but never once admitting to abuse. pictures of Mr. Depp sleeping. That's her best evidence.
I swear the dark things he said is because she
Ms.
drove him to that point.
Ms. Heard held herself out to the world as a representative of abuse survivors everywhere, the face of the Me Too movement. This is not a Me Too situation. There are no Me Toos, just not me's. Ms. Heard does not deserve to be known as a representative of survivors of abuse, and Mr. Depp does not deserve to be known as a representative of perpetrators of abuse. That is what this case is about. It's not about money. It's about giving Mr. Depp his life back 6 years ago when she took it away. While you deliberate, ask yourselves why Mr. Depp would put himself through this. Expose every embarrassing detail of his life on national television. If he was guilty of anything that Ms. Heard accuses him of.
And this man was so private.
We ask you, we implore you, to render a verdict for Mr. Depp. We ask you to set the record straight, that he is not the abuser she described, and that she is not the heroic survivor she portrayed. And we ask you to tell Ms. Heard that what she did was wrong.
Amen to
Thank you
that.
very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
And Joe, that's a good point. Why would he go through all this, expose all of these details, unless he really was saying the truth and clearing his name? Because we keep saying there are two battles here: the court of law, the court of public opinion, and for him to, clear his name of being at least, as the Sun had called him, a wife beater. This is what he wanted. He wanted this to be televised. He wanted to tell his story. What do you make of that argument?
I think it's a compelling argument, and frankly it acknowledges that the court of public opinion is important and is a real thing, and that has been percolating this entire time. It is a powerful argument, and it's also powerful to say, they acknowledge he's got some dark texts and some things that people perhaps shouldn't say, but no admission of being an abuser. Meanwhile, she took on the role of a lifetime, positioned herself as a victim of domestic violence, and we have on tape that she is physically abusive, verbally abusive, and she acknowledges it. So I think that, therein lies the most powerful point for purposes of public opinion. It may end up being the most powerful point for purposes of the jury, because we don't really know. They ought to be in a bubble in that they aren't influenced by what's going on around them. So it's going to be interesting to see how it comes out. Very powerful points indeed.
Okay, so Dr. Pearson, here's the other scenario, right? The jury might come back and they say, you know what, we believe that this is a case of defamation, Amber Heard is liable, right? The separate question is what would be the damages? Because there was so much testimony in this trial about what was the harm that Johnny Depp suffered as a result of the Washington Post article, not the 2016 allegations, nothing that happened before. What did he lose because of the article? And that has been a more nebulous question, right? About what exactly was
article
connected
is
to that.
part of what
Do you
happened
find that
then.
to be a difficulty for Johnny Depp, where maybe the jury could come back and award him very little based on this?
That would be a piss take if they did.
A big issue. They're hard to determine. We've seen cases where there's been a lot of damages that have been awarded, and then, the judge will reduce that amount, what's called remitter. And so I think that here, you may be looking at the loss of the Fantastic Beasts. You may be looking at the Pirates of the Caribbean series. That is still hanging sort of in a dangle, and he's lost choice there. But I also could see it coming back with, a very small sum of money, even $1, and just sending.
Clearing their names or making a point, and
Sorry, I had to mute for a second. I was coughing. Didn't want to get that all in your ears.
So there's something to be thought about there. Now, speaking of Amber Heard's counsel, this was her rebuttal argument. And here's something that was curious. There were time limits for these closing arguments and the way they were scheduled. For this rebuttal argument, Amber Heard's side only had 6 minutes left to deliver it. Let's take a look at some of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's interesting that in both their opening and their rebuttal closing, that you heard Mr. Depp's
This guy's a good
attorneys
lawyer, but I can't
address
stand him because
none of Ms. Heard's
how do
witnesses,
you-
none of Ms. Heard's witnesses
How
They
you
listed
defend
their
this?
own, who didn't see,
I guess it's
who
a job,
were on his
but Jesus.
payroll, weren't there behind closed doors with him, but they didn't address any of the witnesses. For example, Josh Drew, Rocky Pennington, Liz Mars, who were all there on May 21st, Melanie Iglesias,
All
who
of the
covered Ms.
liars.
Heard's bruises. They say that no one showed up for her. No one showed up for her, but then they say that these people aren't friends anymore. If they're not friends anymore, then why would they be doing what they would suggest are lying for her? Why would they be corroborating everything
They're
that
not
she
friends
says?
with her anymore. But what?
It's this simple.
They lied for her, and then later on, they were no longer friends.
That Depp was abusive to Amber one time ever, in any of the various forms of abuse, not only physical, verbal, emotional, psychological, sexual, any of the ways.
One of the things that annoyed me with this is that for the rebuttal, they also used all of the lies that we already know that is a lie. They decided to run with the lies for her rebuttal.
Just means physical abuse. It's not what Mr. Depp said. It's not what Dr. Curry said. It's not what Dr. Hughes said. It's not what you know to be true. You know that the evidence that you've seen constitutes all sorts of abuse. And there's a reason that they're running as fast as they can from those sorts of abuse, because they know that he did it. Now, the suggestion that Amber's abuse allegations are a hoax is vicious and vile. Mr. Depp can say whatever he wants now, but he can't change the evidence that you've seen at the trial. The evidence shows that Ms. Heard did not commit abuse hoaxes. Not about sexual violence, not about May 21st, 2016,
no, not at all.
and certainly not about Mr. Depp and Mr. Wallman's catch-all, all-purpose statement that Ms. Heard's abuse hoax, which suggests that every one of her allegations are false, that that's coming to an end. The evidence shows she did not commit any of those hoaxes. The evidence shows that she was abused exactly how not only
What evidence is he looking at?
Supporting her claims say that she was.
Joe, let's talk about that counterclaim. The counterclaim that is asserted against Johnny Depp, that it was through his attorney, Adam Waldman. There was a series of statements that were made to the Daily Mail that were allegedly defamatory, calling her accusations a hoax. They are making up that $100 million counterclaim, even though we heard from Elaine Brederhoff that they're not really seeking $100 million, money aside. That is the critical issue. Do these statements attach to Johnny Depp because of an agent-principal relationship, and are they in fact defamatory? Where do you stand on it?
It's going to be interesting. It gives you a sense for how much a jury really has to consider. So many people on the outside of it have clear opinions one way or the other, but they've got a lot to consider.
Well, my opinion is
There's three
very
statements
clear.
on that side as well, and the question is, after Johnny Depp gets on and kind of distances himself from the attorney, as it were, would those statements be attributed to Johnny Depp because he was Johnny Depp's attorney at the time? And that's not as clear as the other side, where we know that Amber Heard wrote the op-eds, and the question is whether or not those statements are defamatory. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's
We're looking at two different situations. One, someone said something, and the other one is that person actually wrote something.
In the first instance, then I think that you're more likely.
So someone speaking on behalf of you is just as powerful as someone who's actually writing the defamatory information, apparently.
On the claim as a whole, and not just as to one word. If you're less likely to believe her, then you're less likely to accredit that and connect that to Johnny Depp through the attorney. That shouldn't necessarily be the case because they're two separate questions. But I think the credibility on each side is going to go a very long way.
All right. I mean, that's a good argument. They might decide Depp's claim first, move on to that counterclaim, and then see. No, that's a really good point. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more for you.
Going on breaks. I want to get into the courtroom. So far, we are 24 minutes in, and nothing is being shown whatsoever. I'm guessing they haven't heard anything yet because we have a 4-minute countdown to catch up now and see what happens then. I don't know. I feel like I should maybe stop the live and then come back on once I know for sure that the jury is going to be on, just because I feel like we're just going to sit here and watch them talk and talk and talk about the same things, about everything that happened in the case. And I don't want to be too boring for you guys because, like I said, it's a lot more fun when you're using proper equipment and you got the OBS running and we can kind of run clips from other situations that have happened and things that have been found out. You also have the situation where everyone's just posting, even I did it, posting about her writing and how she wasn't writing any notes during this whole trial, how she was making believe the whole entire time. You can see when her lawyer just kind of looks at her like what is she doing? And I do believe, sorry, my lips are dry. I do believe at some points that Elaine was actually scared of her, because if you see one time, there's a moment where she turns around to look at her, and Amber looks at her, and she just turns back like real quick, like oh crap, she saw me looking at her. It's just I just feel like sometimes she was just scared of her, and especially during a trial when Camille kept, having an objection to what she was saying, and she just stops for a second and is like, oh, I'm trying. Like, I felt that for her. Like, at that moment, I felt so bad for her because I thought, damn, she must know that by the time at the end of this case, at the end of the day, like, Amber was gonna say something to her. Or she was just so fed up and having to, defend someone who she might feel at that time with all this evidence, yeah, she might be guilty. I'm thinking she was just kind of giving up at that point. There's a lot of times when I was wondering why it was so quiet on her team when she was getting like chewed out by Camille, and they just kept silence. There was no objection. There was nothing. And I think at some points it's just because they were just tired. They were tired of her, so they figured, let her get chewed out. Let her get in trouble. Let her say something that is going to put her in a position to lose the case. And I know they obviously make their money with their case, but I think, is it even worth it at this point? It's kind of crazy to me, for people who have to defend people who they know are guilty about something, and it's got to be the hardest job to do, especially when you're working with people who have like killed other people and abused other people. It's got to be a hard situation to sit there as a lawyer and defend these type of people. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could sit there and defend someone knowing, maybe because I'm too emotional of a person and just hearing certain stories will make me upset or make me cry. Like, I'm a big crybaby. I can't watch a commercial with something cute in it and I start crying, or vice versa, like anything sad and I am like in tears. But I don't know how these people can do it. And to a certain point, I guess I kind of have to give them props for even trying to defend her, because having to defend that and that amount of evidence that they had against her, I don't know. Let's see what's going on now.
Back, everybody. So we're covering the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial, where we believe today the jury will continue their deliberations to determine whether or not Amber Heard defamed Johnny Depp, or whether or not Johnny Depp defamed Amber Heard. We have a suit and countersuit that we've been talking about all this morning, but right now I want to go live to Fairfax County, Virginia, where our intrepid reporter Stacey Delicat is live. And now, for those of you who do not know who Stacey is one of our fantastic reporters here at the Law and Crime Network. She has covered some major stories for us and is now on the ground covering the case that the whole world is talking about. So, Stacey, it is great to see you, and I'm happy you're there covering this for us. What do you have for us? What's the latest?
Jesse, thank you so much for that warm welcome. Yeah, good morning, live from Fairfax, Virginia, where the humidity is high, and so is the suspense out here outside of the courtroom as we wait for a verdict in this case, really for any update for that matter. As we've been saying, the jury got in 2 hours of deliberation on Friday before calling it for the long weekend, and they were back at it at 9 o'clock this morning.
Okay, so they've already been going for 2 hours.
We've been talking about it for 6 weeks. Remember, this is is not just a case about, do you believe Johnny Depp? Do you believe Amber Heard? The jury has
So right now we have 2 hours and 34
of
minutes.
instructions and work ahead of them. I mean, this is just the special verdict form, but there was a whole packet of jury instructions where they have to sit down and talk it over.
Well,
and
34
say,
minutes
first of all, were the
possibly.
statements made by Amber Heard defamatory? If so, were they made with malice? And then for the countersuit, the same thing. Were the statements made by Johnny Depp's attorney acting on his behalf, Mr. Waldman, were those defamatory? Were they made with actual malice? And once they get through all
We know
those
she did with
lists,
malice
check
because she
marks,
said
then it comes down to the
when she was
damages.
in
And
the
will there be
last
any
moment
damages,
when
punitive and
Camille was
compensatory? So
making her
we have a lot
upset
of work to
that
do.
she
So we
did
keep talking
that
about
because
no
of
one
his
has a
power.
crystal ball for how long jury deliberations will be.
Basically,
in
she
any
wanted to
case,
knock
but,
him down a peg or
certainly
two.
in this case, they have some work ahead of them, and I think most people think it's at least going to be
For a long time,
good-
she was
a good amount of
denying
time whether we
writing
hear something or not today.
the
It
op-ed, so
probably won't be in the next hour or so. It's probably going to be a bit longer than that, but that's just my take, Jesse.
Well, I'm going to ask you the $50 million question, the $100 million question. The reason, I mean, the scene looks a lot quiet outside, looks very different than it did the past few weeks. And is that because Johnny Depp will not be there?
Hi,
I mean,
welcome
do we
to the
have any
stream.
sense
I
of
definitely
whether or
hope
not
so.
he will make an appearance in that courtroom either today or this week?
He just has to.
Yeah,
There's
Jesse,
no
let
way.
me first set the scene for you. Now, remember,
'Cause if he
I
doesn't,
haven't been here the whole time
my
like
gosh.
you and Ann Jeanette have been, but I've been watching you guys. I've been listening to the podcast. I've been following everything on Twitter. And what we've seen up to this point is not what we're seeing here today. We got here early, as the crew has been every day during this trial, and it was quiet out. In the past, there have been lines starting at 1 a.m. to get into this courtroom and see the drama. Well, nope, not today, since testimony is over. In fact, there were only about 10 people or so in line here when Ann Jeanette got here earlier this morning. And even later in the morning, I was able to go up and get a wristband at a time when they're normally totally maxed out. So we don't have the same kind of crowd.
The other reason is because Johnny and Amber will not be present when the verdict is read at the courtroom. So that is the reason why that many people are not present. Many people have heard that Johnny and Amber will not be present.
There was a bit of commotion behind me over by the doors of the courthouse, and I'm told Ben Chu, some of the other attorneys for Johnny Depp, had stepped out for a moment for whatever reason. Johnny Depp himself, well, if you were thinking, gosh, he must be so anxious over these deliberations and what's the verdict going to be, and he's probably holed up in his hotel room waiting all weekend. No,
he was here in Sheffield.
Johnny Depp hopped a flight to the UK, where he was performing not once but twice this
I kind of wish I
weekend,
would have been able to see that.
with famous musician Jeff Beck. Last night in London, a second show. The two of them have a song, a collaboration they put out together back in 2020. There are clips all over the internet of them playing. So yeah, Johnny Depp left town and went to play some gigs over in the UK. We're told there is another show scheduled tonight with Beck. No word whether Johnny Depp will be playing.
Is that in London?
Because
I might have to hop over there, you know.
To wait for deliberation. So I can tell you, I saw one of his security guards coming in and out. He just left a couple minutes ago. I said to him, "Hey, does this mean Johnny's going to be back today if you're here?" And he just shrugged his arms. He said, I can't say anything. As for Amber Heard, no indication that she is here, and we're not really sure because her team isn't confirming one way or the other whether she'll be here. What we do know is once the jury does reach a verdict, notice will be given out. There'll be an hour notice before that verdict is
She
read
says that, but like I said, it has been rumored that neither Johnny nor Amber will be present during the verdict.
All right. Well, we will wait and see.
I mean, look, when we saw his security guard, we said, you know, why would he be here if Johnny's over in UK for the rest of the week? So
Maybe he lent out
Maybe
his
we'll
security
have
team
a
for the lawyers to protect
surprise
them, given
show
what's
up.
happening. It's a possibility, but I'll tell you what. We'll wait and see. Maybe they don't know, but he didn't say no. He didn't say no, so that's something to think about.
He did not say no. He said,
Oh, that gives me hope now that he'll be there for the reading. That would be awesome.
Thank you so much. We're going to check in with you later on in the program. We want to continue talking more about this case. We're going to continue following what's happening outside that courtroom and inside that courtroom. But where we last left off, we played some of the closing arguments. Now let's go to some of the testimony, particularly when Johnny Depp and Amber Heard took the stand again, both of them, a second time. Now, Johnny Depp took the stand to really specifically refer to to address the Adam Waldman statements that make up Amber Heard's counterclaim. Take a look.
Whitney, my sister,
The one you used to
all of a
bully?
sudden put herself in between Johnny and I. She just threw herself like in the line of fire or whatever. She just all of a sudden
Hold
was there, I
on.
was trying to get Johnny
Here
to
comes the
stop.
sadness with no tears.
Her back was to the staircase, and Johnny swings at her, and I just see my little sister with her back her back to the staircase, and Johnny swings at her, and I don't even wait for any other, I don't hesitate, I don't wait, I just in my head instantly think of
Kate Moss
and the stairs.
Yes.
And I swung at him.
Okay, so that's
Oh,
Amber
they
Heard
didn't put
talking about
in
the infamous staircase
his
incident.
reaction
We
with
really
his
wanted to play
lawyer.
Johnny Depp addressing the Adam Waldman statements. Take a
Because
look.
by her saying Kate Moss's name, that made her, made them able to use her as a witness.
The first time that I ever saw this statement was in August. It was when the piece was
You see those big ass rings?
when she August
You
2020
think
when I was
he really hit her
countersued by Ms. Heard.
repeatedly, and that's
That's
all
the
she
first
had
time
as
that I saw any of
bruises.
these statements.
Can we please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 1246? And this is also already in evidence. Thank you. If we could scroll down to the second page, or the third perhaps. Thank you. Mr. Depp, do you see the statement that's attributed to Mr. Waldman here?
I do.
And when is the first time that you saw these statements?
Excuse me.
Same when the countersuit was filed.
And could we please go to Defense Exhibit 1247? And again, this is already in evidence. If we could scroll down, please, thank you. Mr. Depp, do you see the statement attributed to Mr. Waldman?
I do indeed, yes.
And when's the first time that you saw this statement?
This is the same as the counterclaim to August 2020.
Okay, so aside from his connection to the statements, or if he authorized them or knew about them, there's a separate question of what effect they had on Amber Heard. Take a look.
You suffered publicly as a result of the Depp-Waldman statements.
Objection, speculation. Overruled. I am
Here we go.
harassed, humiliated, threatened every single day.
I want to play the world's smallest violin right now.
Even just walking into this courtroom, sitting here in front of the world, having the worst parts of my life, things that I've lived through, used to humiliate me. People want to kill me, and they tell me so every day. People want to put my baby in the microwave.
Now, who the
Tell
hell
me
would
that.
say that, though? That's wild.
Johnny threatened, promised me that if I ever left him, he'd make me think of him every single day that I lived. Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
Okay, so clearly you're seeing the impact of these counterclaims. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about it on the other side.
I cannot believe that somebody would actually say something like that to someone. Now, I will say, anybody talking about the baby, it's just wrong. The child has nothing to do with who she is. I was surprised to find out that she even had a kid, because for a long time I didn't even know she had a kid. So apparently she was birthed by a surrogate mother. So people are speculating that it could be Elon Musk's child, because they have something where I guess they have their eggs frozen together in some lab or something. So there's speculation that it could be his kid. Some other people think, could it be James Franco? And others are like, nah, definitely more likely to be Elon Musk, just because they would think her to maybe have a child with someone who's very, very well off, very wealthy. I don't know how much James Franco makes as whatever actor he is, like whatever he does. But I stab in the dark here. I'm thinking Elon Musk is probably better, well off, more well off than Franco. So there's a speculation that that's his daughter. I think her name is Ona. If I've read that right, I think I'm pronouncing that right. But I just think that all this craziness is just. I think a lot of people will be glad when it's over because I think to some extent people are even more tired than Johnny hearing the name Amber Heard. It's everywhere. That's all you can listen to. Listen, I'm sitting here talking about her, and I barely have done cases like this or have made commentary about specific cases. I have spoken about like the Brian Laundrie, but I think I took those videos down because I wasn't trying to do too much of like cases because it's a lot of work to follow these cases and to understand all the jargon. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer. But I've always enjoyed watching court cases, especially back in the day when it was like court TV and there was a court case like every single day, especially in Florida, when court TV was really popping and used to get things like Dr. G, medicine woman, in her autopsies, and she would come in and give her testimony to certain cases. The Casey Anthony case was another case that I followed just because of the case itself was very crazy. The Ahmaud Arbery, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, that case, I popped in a couple of times on that case. There's been a lot of cases that have happened recently that have been very, very interesting. So I do like watching those type of things. So I was more personally invested with this because of domestic violence and, of course, Johnny Depp. I'm sure this has probably made probably more money for a lot of these reporters than most of the films that have recently come out.
Whitney, my
Let's see
sister,
what's going on. I guess they're still talking about
all of a sudden put herself
testimony that she's given
in between
in the
Johnny
past.
and
I'm just anxious for this thing. If it doesn't happen
threw
in the next
herself,
couple of minutes,
like,
I'll
in
probably
line
come
of
back for a live.
fire or whatever. She just all of a sudden was there. I was trying to get Johnny to stop. Her back was to the staircase, and Johnny swings at her.
We've already heard this.
And I just
1 second. I don't want to blow your guys'
see my little
ears
sister
off.
with her. Wait for any other. I don't hesitate. I don't wait. I just in my head instantly think of Kate Moss and the stairs, and I swung at him.
Okay, so when she made that reference, Johnny's Depp.
But she's never hit a blow. She's never landed a blow, but she hit him.
She made that reference because then they could call Kate Moss herself to testify about whether or not she was actually pushed down the stairs by Johnny Depp. Take a look.
Ms. Moss, did there come a time when you, while you and Mr. Depp were a couple, that the two of you took a
Kate
vacation
Moss
together
looks like she would be like
to the
a
Golden
very
Isle Resort in
strict
Jamaica?
boss or something.
Yes.
What, if anything,
I'm sure she's lovely,
happened when you were in Jamaica?
but she looks very
with Mr.
stern.
We were leaving the room, and Johnny left the room before I did, and there had been a rainstorm, and as I left the room, I slid down the stairs, and I hurt my back.
How did you...
And
I apologize, Ms. Moss. Please continue.
And I screamed because I was in, because I didn't know what had happened to me, and I was in pain, and he came running back to help me and carried me to my room and got me medical attention.
Did Mr. Depp push you in any way down the stairs?
No.
During the course of your relationship, did he ever push you down any stairs?
No, he never pushed me, kicked me, or threw me down any stairs.
Dr. Pearson, how significant
that
is
was
that?
lovely.
I mean, she basically said this rumor that, that's been circulating, and the one that Amber Heard referenced is not true.
Where does this rumor
It's
come
critically
from?
significant.
Did she start this rumor? That's what I want to
You
know.
have to believe that Amber Heard, in that moment, if it did happen the way she says it did, thought of Kate Moss. I don't believe that. But it's true. Kate Moss testified live from the United Kingdom for Johnny Depp to counteract Amber Heard's testimony and made Amber Heard look like a liar. And I think the other piece that I want
I'm sure she did that on her own, but yeah, she helped for sure.
Testifies and the way Amber Heard testifies. Kate Moss speaks in past tense. She talks about a situation that happened to her in the past tense. Amber Heard always talks in present tense, as if she's creating the story as she's talking.
Because she's lying.
That's an interesting observation. That's a really interesting observation. And Joe, circling back to something that we didn't get a chance to talk about in the last block, but I wanted to address with you is the counterclaims. Connecting Johnny Depp to the statements of his attorney, Adam Waldman. He takes the stand, and as he's played before, he says, the first time I ever saw these statements is when I was sued by Amber Heard over them. But then there was testimony, including from Adam Waldman, that Johnny Depp accompanied him to a meeting with the Daily Mail. And when Johnny Depp was questioned about this on the stand, he couldn't really, maybe, wasn't sure, he got a little wish-washy. Where do you stand on whether or not he really authorized those statements and knew about them, and if he was being a bit evasive when being questioned by J. Benjamin Rottenborn?
I go briefly to the instruction about definition between principal and agent. Principal is a person with power or right to control means and methods of performance by an agent that performs the principal's work, and the agent is the person subject to the power of the principal in carrying out the work. And so what Johnny Depp was saying is that once he didn't see these statements until the counterclaim, which means by implication that he wasn't acting on his behalf because he wasn't controlling what the agent did, because he didn't know what the agent actually had done until the counterclaim, which meant that there was no principal-agent relationship for purposes of connecting him to that defamation.
She really is a stunning woman.
The occurrence of this
She's
meeting
beautiful.
with the Daily Mail would seem
Very
to
unique
undermine
look.
that. Why
Beautiful.
are you going to the Daily Mail unless you're looking to publish something against Amber Heard? So again, here we have a believability thing, right? But it's a two-step process. You have to believe that there's a principal-agent relationship there, which is possible, even though he seeks to separate himself from it. And then also, then you still have to believe how it affected Amber Heard, which I think is as difficult as anything, just because of her credibility issues.
Okay, do you believe that, Dr. Pearson, that it's difficult to explain? We talked about before the harm that Johnny Depp suffered as a result of the Washington Post article. But we heard so much testimony about what Amber Heard has suffered as a result of these statements from Adam Waldman, that, there was this huge social media campaign, all of these negative tweets that either referred to Waldman or referenced Waldman, that led to everything else that has happened to her. Or is that a bit nebulous? Is it hard to connect all the harm that she has reaped and all the hatred to the actual statements at issue in these counterclaims?
What's good for the goose is good for the gander, I suppose, is the way that you might think of this. What they've been arguing is that, the harm doesn't come from the published statement in itself, as it goes back to the domestic violence allegations from the very beginning. That's one of the things that Amber Heard's team has tried to separate out. And the same thing applies to her. The experts in this case, their expert when it came to the harm she suffered, I found him implausible. I found him difficult to believe, in the sense that
I'm sorry, but that little mark on her face right there, you could do that with just rubbing your face.
Maybe, but not causation.
When you're very
And you
fair
have to look for
skinned,
causation
all it
when
takes
comes
is
to
for you to just
damages.
tap your skin, and
I
you could,
go on about
that red mark
examples
could
of
show up
that, but,
easily.
suffice it to say, things that she's attributing as damage, like her having to walk into the courtroom, well, guess what? Johnny Depp has a right to litigate. He has a right
She
to
could
defend
do that
himself.
much damage with a washcloth
This
from
case
washing
beat,
her face.
a motion
She's
to
so
dismiss,
fair-skinned.
It beat a summary judgment motion, and it beat a motion to strike. So there's enough there for it to warrant a jury trial.
and her counterclaims as well. And that's
She
what's so
herself
interesting. It's
made
all
a
in the hands
story
of the jury.
saying
They
that
have
she
so
has a
much to
skin
consider.
condition. So
Defamation
could that
claims,
not be
counterclaim
part
defamation
of a
claims,
skin condition
then
that
the
she
issue of
once
damages, maybe
mentioned
that
while
could
on
take a
the
whole
stand?
day for them to decide that. Now, Joe, you know where I'm going because I know we're about to sign you off. We have about 90 seconds. When are we getting a verdict, Joe? What do you think?
Yeah, Joe, tell us.
Listen, I've got bills to pay. If I knew that, I would hedge it, sell it, and get rich. But I think they're going to deliberate it another day or so. I think it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 3 days.
Not another
probably.
day.
And it's interesting. The question becomes, which narrative do they believe? Does the jury believe the one side, you know, Johnny Depp's folks, want to narrow the definition of abuse to just physical and say that you really have to take Amber Heard whole, believe everything or believe nothing. On the other hand, Amber Heard's folks want to broaden the definition. Any form of abuse is abuse, and therefore, if verbal abuse happened, if other abuse happened other than traditional physical abuse, then he loses on defamation, as well as saying any one instance. You can split hairs and say, I don't believe A, B, and C that Amber Heard said, but I do believe D, and therefore Johnny loses. So the question becomes,
That would be
how do you
awkward.
come out with that? Each side has 3 statements to consider, and so therefore the jury has some work to do. So give them
I
another day
agree
or
with
so.
you. I think it's going to take some time. I really do. But I've been wrong before, so we'll see. Joe Richardson, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Dr. Pearson and I will be right back right after this.
So it seems that we will have to wait a little while longer. They're speculating that the jury will take 2 to 3 days, maybe one more day to deliberate in this case. And I was kind of hoping for today because I got stuff I need to do the rest of the week. But I'm sure a lot of us are going to be paying attention. And if at any point we get a tweet or tweet me, if anything, at Alba Nouveau, if you guys get an update before I do, let me know that the verdict is about to be read. Because there's, I don't think it's going to happen. Definitely not in the next hour or so, if anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank you all for tuning in to the live for today. And hopefully I can do a better live very soon and actually have a live where we come to the verdict. And it will have to be one of those ghetto rigged really quick lives as well, because chances are we're not going to know until like last minute when the verdict is about to be read if I'm even available to watch it live with you guys. But I will try to come in here and go live when it does happen. Fingers crossed, hopefully. And like I said, thank you once again to all of the new subscribers to the channel. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you to the tons and tons of comments that I've been getting, recently, climatic as it was. Give me a like. Let me know what you would like to see in future lives. Yeah, so I'm kind of upset because I was really, really hoping for the verdict to be read at least in the first couple of minutes of today, but that was wishful thinking, knowing that they only had 2 hours that they deliberated on Friday. So which means the rest and the majority of the deliberation will probably be left till today. So fingers crossed we can at least hope for later on in the evening today or tomorrow. So just keep out on the lookout. I'll keep watching and have my Twitter notifications on. At Alba Nouveau is my Twitter handle. Gosh, I don't know. Now I'm feeling like sad because I wanted to know like right away, like what is it? What is it? But I forgot that Monday was holiday Memorial Day in the States, and I'm here in the UK, so we're still on like bank holidays and stuff like that, but I totally forgot that was Memorial Day. So yeah, unfortunately, we still don't know what the verdict is, but hopefully soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, guys, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Hope you have a good day too, because this is Oh, this is really just made me sad now. Now I'm mad. I want to know what happened. Until next time, guys. Bye.